and welcome to the first session of Stretch and Strengthen. Today we're going to do a few exercises and stretches to help our backs. This will involve mainly working through our core and our glute muscles. So I'm wearing no shoes, you don't really need any shoes today. It's going to be mainly just on the mats, so make sure you're wearing something comfortable and you're welcome to follow along with me. Now I have my workout program just up on there. It helps me go and remember what's coming, so if I look up there, that's why. So when it comes to our backs, strengthening through the core is one of the most important things to do, because your core has a lot to do with how much strain is actually being put on the spine itself. So we're just going to start off with some nice fluid motions through our knees, just to get some movement going through our lower back to start off with. So make sure your feet are together, knees are together, and we're just swaying side to side, keeping our knees just under 90 degrees, feet on the floor. And you can have your hands out either side just to give you a bit more stretch through the chest. So I've designed these sessions to give you some kind of tools and technique advice, just so that you can do these programs at home. So if you did get the email, otherwise let me know. I sent through the program. This can be done after this session. You can do this multiple times. It's just to give you a guide, and then throughout my video I'll kind of try and give you advice on the right technique. Now this one is just basically to warm up through the lower back. We don't want to get started with a cold muscle in our lower back. So once you feel a bit good with this and it's starting to flow a bit more and you're not as creaky maybe, you can start to lift up your feet. So now we're working a bit more through the muscles. It's a little less of a stretch, more of an exercise. And by doing this, we're working the muscles through the sides of our abs as well as the middle. And we're trying to control it as well. So we're not kind of just throwing our legs around. We're going very slowly, controlling that movement, making sure our feet are still together at this stage. And if this is feeling a bit easy for you, you can try and make it a bit harder by increasing the angle at your knees. So you can start to bring your feet up a bit more. You can even straighten your legs if you're really up for it. And then the last progression for this one is you can bring your hands closer and closer until they're by your side. And that just makes it a little bit harder. The thing with strengthening through your muscles is that you want to keep making it harder for yourself, otherwise they won't get any stronger. Our body wants to help us do what we're doing. And then I usually do, once we're up in the air, I usually do this exercise for about 30 seconds, and then I'll have a break, reset myself, and on my program there, I've set another exercise to do with this. So that's called a superset, when you do one exercise in conjunction with the other. So the next exercise, we're going to place our feet on the ground, quite close to our bottoms. The closer you can get, the better. Prefer you not to have your feet out far though. So closer means we're going to work the muscles that we want to, which is, in this case, the glutes. So with your feet firmly planted, you can have your hands just by your side, on your thighs, if whatever's comfortable. And we're just going to slowly tilt our pelvis so that our hips start going up and pushing them towards the ceiling. Just holding here for a couple of seconds, and then very slowly, one vertebrae at a time, we're going to roll back down until we get back to the ground. So this is a glute bridge, or we're going to do more of a glute thruster exercise. So again, we're tilting our pelvis so that our hips are going towards the sky, and we're just going to push up one vertebrae at a time until our hips are up in the air. Holding up just for a couple seconds, and then lowering very slowly, one vertebrae at a time, until you get to the ground. And now you can repeat this one as quick as you want. It's up to yourself. Up and down. You can hold it for longer if you want to make it a bit harder. And remembering when we do this exercise, I want you to be pushing through your heels if you can. So by pushing through your heels, we're working those glutes a bit harder as well. We're reinforcing the muscles. And when you get to the top, make sure we're tightening up through our glutes as well. I'm going very slow, but you're welcome to go at your pace. If that's really quick or if that's slow, it's up to you. And hello, I can see you've just joined there on the blue jeans. Just be mindful, I am filming, so if you could mute your microphone, that would be great. Up and down, just one more. And then relaxing. In the middle, you can have a little stretch. If you have just joined us, welcome. Feel free to get into a comfy position and get set. We've only just started, so you've only missed out on one set. Going back to the first exercise now. So feet are together, knees are together. This one is just again another kind of movement through the lower back just to start off with. So before we do exercise, we always make sure we move our joints, get them all warm, and then we can start working them. If you're comfortable with this, we can pick up our knees and swaying side to side, and I call this one a wiper exercise. Remembering to go very slow. Doesn't have to be hard to start off with. You can start with your feet on the ground, but make sure you're working through those abs. You're tightening them up to pull your legs over to the other side. And again, if it's a bit easy, you can start to straighten out your legs to make it a bit harder on yourself. It's also very important when we're doing abdominal exercises to make sure you breathe. So big deep breaths. Keep going for another couple breaths. Make sure your knees and your feet are together. Holding your abs very tight and relaxing. Back to the second exercise. So I like to do them a couple times each. Back to the second exercise means our feet are on the ground, our knees are about hip distance apart, and we're just going to push through our heels very slowly until our hips come off the ground and we form a glute bridge. And then slowly rolling down. And again, up we go. Holding for as long as you want at the top, and slowly rolling back down. Couple more here. This is the last one. I like to repeat the exercises. You can do them either 2 or 3 times. It's up to yourselves, but once you go more than 3, you're fatiguing the muscles enough. I'd say 3 sets, 30 seconds each exercise is plenty, just to start off with. And then once you get used to it, once it gets a bit easy, you can start looking at ways that you can go a bit longer, maybe increase the amount of times you do them. It's up to yourself really. Remembering with this exercise, we're pushing through our heels, we're rolling up through our spine, pushing our hips to the ceiling, squeezing through our glutes, and lowering back down. The reason we do this one is sometimes the glutes can get a bit weak, they might also get a bit tight, and by exercising through the glutes, you're just helping to, careful there, whoever's just joined us, make sure you put your microphone on mute, just because I am filming the class. Big deep breath, one more, and resting there. So just in between, we'll give our legs a bit of a swish side to side. Sorry, Isabella, do you think you could mute your microphone, please? We're just getting a few noises.
Yep.
Here. Thank you. I've just got it. I'm just filming the class, so everyone will be able to hear you. All right, that's the first set done. We're just going to go on to the next exercise now. So the next one, we're just going to put our feet in the air to start off with, getting a nice flat back on the floor. So if you've just joined me, let's get into it. Make sure that your back's nice and warm first. You're not going to be exercising with cold muscles, so give maybe your back a little bit of a stretch first. But this next exercise, we're just going to have our knees at 90 degrees. arms just by your side, and one leg at a time, we're going to lower down and tap our heel to the ground. Now, first of all, before we even get to that, I want you to make sure that your lower back is right there on the ground, so you can't fit your hand underneath. If you've got a gap there and you can get your hand under, try and focus on pushing your back down. And if that's really hard with your legs up in the air, you could even try and hold your legs. That way you're putting less strain on your back. It's about where you're at, really, and I don't want you to try and hurt yourself if you need to just slow it down a bit. So one leg at a time, lowering down and back up. If you don't need to hold on, you don't have to. And we're just keeping our legs bent at this stage. So this is a really good one to work through those core muscles in the front there. And I was saying before, the more exercise you do through your core, the stronger your back will be. So that's why we're doing these muscles. I don't know if you're aware, but these muscles have every part in if you get injured through your back. The more strength we have through our core, the more kind of support we are giving our back. That's the way to put it. Making sure our backs are fully pushed to the floor. We've got no gap there. Even when we're down, if you're going down heel to the ground, you're getting a bit of a gap there. Maybe just fix yourself, have a break, and then get back into it after you've kind of relaxed for a bit. And just resting there, feet on the ground. Give yourself a bit of a shake side to side. This is a good stretch to do, the first exercise. This is a good one to do in between exercises for abs, because sometimes our backs can get a bit fatigued and you might feel that as a burning sensation through your back. Now the next exercise is kind of a progression. So we're going to put our feet back up in the air, and this time we're going to join our hands in the motion. So our hands are just going to be in the air. You don't have to hold any weight. They can just be clenched or open, whatever's comfiest for you. And as we lower one leg, we're going to lower the opposite arm. So this is called a bird dog. So we're lowering opposite arm and leg and meeting them back up in the middle. So up and down through the arms and the legs. You probably start to feel it after a few reps. And if you want to make this a bit harder, you might have some weights at home that you can just put in your hands, or you might have some water bottles. Water bottles are a great option if you don't have any hand weights, just to make it a bit harder through your hands. Making sure as well with this one, our lower backs are very flat on the floor. We're not getting any gap again. That's going to be the main thing when it comes to building up strength through your back. Keeping your back flat, otherwise you're going to be working the back muscles rather than the ab muscles. And we want to work the abs. They're bigger, they're stronger, got more potential. And have a rest there. Shake it off, give yourself a bit of a stretch side to side. You can also do this with your feet a bit farther apart. Gives a bit more of a stretch through the hip flexors, which these ones here are usually the ones that get a bit tight and a bit fatigued during these exercises, because having our legs up also works them. And we're just going to do one more set. Legs up in the air. Starting off with just the legs, lowering one at a time. If you want to make this one a bit harder as well, you can look at maybe putting your leg down straight and back up. By straightening the leg, you're just working the core a little bit more. But this class isn't about pushing yourself, it's about finding where you're at and sticking to it and progressing slowly. Because if we push ourselves too much, you might just hurt yourself, and that's not what we want. We want to strengthen you so that you can prevent hurting yourself. And then if that's feeling good, we can start to bring in our arms. So opposite arm and leg down. You can do it with a bent leg or a straight leg, up to yourself. Lots of progressions when it comes to these kind of exercises. Remember, if the arms are too hard, just do one leg at a time. You can hold the other one. It's up to you where you're at. But if you're doing the arms, then you're doing good. If you're doing the arms and straight legs, you're also doing good. And then if you've got weights in your hands, you're doing even better. And resting there. Shake it off. That's the first 2 sets. We've got one more set of exercises, and then we'll switch and do some stretches. Now we're just going to flip onto our bellies for this next one. So we did that on the back bird dogs. This time we're going to bring into do the same thing essentially, but flip over onto our fronts. Hands and our feet, we're going to lift one leg at a time. Now I'm starting with just the leg, but if you're finding that that is okay, you think you can go a little bit harder, we can add in the arm. So just like our one on our back, we're now getting our arm involved. Remembering to take big deep breaths with these exercises. They're not hard, but they can get a bit breathless if you don't breathe, so it's important to breathe. Remembering as well, they're not supposed to be quick ones, you're not supposed to thrash them. It's more about the control and the movement rather than as many reps as you can get. So very simple, very easy, controlled movements. And when you start to shake, that's a good thing. That means the muscles we're working, they're working. And have a short rest. Now, so that we can do more in one go, we're going to go on to the next exercise as well. So that's called a superset, when we do one exercise and we do another and come back to it. The next exercise is a plank. Now I know you're thinking, oh, plank, who wants to do those? I know they're not fun, but they are really good for your core strength. So essentially, we're going to start off on our knees. So straight body on our elbows, obviously if your shoulders permit. If you want to, you can flip on your back and hold a glute bridge instead. But the idea is that our hips are very straight. So my hips aren't up here, we're keeping them down. And this means that we're going to be working more through our core. If this is all you can do, 10 seconds is all you can get, drop down, that's fine. I'd rather you drop, hold for as long as you can in a proper technique, then drop rather than starting to get a bit hard and lifting your hips, because that's not going to help anything really. So take your time, 30 seconds if that's all you can do, or if you can do 2 minutes. Now I've got us on our knees because I know planking can be hard, but if you are up for it, you can try doing a plank on your toes. Toes are a lot harder. If you can see closely, I am shaking. I'm a little bit fatigued today, but essentially a plank is working our muscles through a static movement, coming back up onto our all fours. So that static hold is essentially replicating the type of work we do where you have to hold things for a long period of time. So if you've ever kind of got down, squatted and had to do some work low to the ground, going back into the first exercise by the way, I'm just going to keep talking. So one leg up, one arm up. So as I was saying, when you're doing work low to the ground or if you're having to hold a position, these exercises that make you hold a position, even though they're horrible, they can be really good to help you build up strength to be able to do those things. So that's why we do them. Because doing crunches and abs and other things like that, they're not going to be as good as the static holds. Keep breathing. Remember, slow, very controlled movements. And I know it's hard, but try to keep your neck looking straight down. Try not to look off to the side. I know it's hard because you want to see what I'm doing, but try and get an idea of what the movement is, and then if you can, neutral neck. One more breath. And down we go. We'll finish off the exercises with a plank, and then we'll switch over to do some stretches. Getting ready. I'll hold it for 30 seconds. You don't have to go with me, but 30 is a good aim. Let's go. So remember, we're holding our glutes, we're holding our abs. See if you can see my hips, they're quite straight, they're not up. We're keeping a nice plank, as they say. Remembering to breathe. I find thinking about other things while doing exercise can be quite handy. Takes your mind off the pain. Holding your core really tight also helps as well. Another 5 seconds. 3, 2, and 1. Relax. I'm pretty sure that was 30. I wasn't actually timing it, I just guessed, but we'll move on to the stretches now, guys. We're done. So after we've done all the exercises, it's also really good to stretch through your core and through your lower back to help get the muscles nice and loose so that they don't build up too much tension. So I'm going to switch my program over to the stretches side now, and we're going to start off with a nice forward flexion stretch. I'm sorry, but Geeta, your microphone is on and we can hear a little bit of background noise.
Oh, sorry.
You're okay. I think it's because you went in and out, but no worries at all here. So starting off, we were just going to lift up through our torso and as much bend as you can. Now I've gone where I feel comfortable, but make sure that your hips are on the ground and we're feeling the stretch through our core. This one's a great stretch to do straight after, because all of our core muscles might be a bit tight after doing the exercises. So by getting them nice and loose now, we're helping them recover. Don't hold it for too long with this one though. Lower back down, give it a little bit of a rest, and then you can go back up again. It's good to try and focus on the stretch. Focus on the area that you want to stretch and put it into your mind. They say the mind can be a very powerful thing, and by just focusing on it, you can almost release the fibers with your brain. Obviously, it takes the movement as well though. And coming up into all fours, bringing the knees as wide as your mat or just over hip distance, toes together. We're going to send our hips onto our feet if that is comfortable for your knees. If it isn't, then find something that is comfortable. Maybe just lay there in a nice position that is comfortable for you. But otherwise, if you're with me, we're just going to reach forward, resting our head on the mat in a nice child's pose position. This is a good one to do to try and reach forward and get some length through your spine. And coming up onto all fours, that should feel pretty nice. Just going to do a few movements through the spine in a cat-cow position. So pushing up into a arched position through your back and breathing in and going the opposite way. So this is another good one that you can do before exercise as well. it does get a lot of movement through the spine. Our spinal joints, they're all kind of like in a chain effect. And by moving them around like this, we're getting each individual joint moving and all the fluids replenishing. This is really good for the upper back as well. Keep breathing, a couple more. And coming up, we're going to put one foot forward, and if this is comfortable for your knees, otherwise a cushion underneath the knee might be handy, or you can do this standing if that is easier. So you can do it with one leg forward. Obviously I've got my legs quite far apart, but if that is easier for you, not having the knee on the ground, more than welcome. Just for me though, I'm going to do it on my knee, and I'm just going to hold that position. So with this stretch, we're stretching through that hip flexor. So the hip flexors can sometimes get a bit tight, and I spoke before about us strengthening the glutes for the lower back. So the glutes, the lower back muscles, the hip flexors, the quads and the hammies, they can all play a part when it comes to lower back pain. Sometimes, say if my hip flexors are tight, which if you sit down a lot of the day, or if you work at a desk or sit in a car all day, they can get quite tight. They can pull on your pelvis. So they pull on this front one, which rotates it a little bit, and it can put all of these muscles out of whack, and it might feel a bit painful. So that's why we like to stretch through a range of different muscles. And you know, if you notice that this is a really tight muscle that you're stretching right now, that might be something that you might need to focus on. And changing legs. So with this stretch, we're trying to focus on pushing our pelvis forward. So if you're bent over like that, you're not going to feel it as much. We want to try and have our back up straight. If you need to hold something around you, please do. And pushing pelvis forward, and you should be able to feel it right through that front of hip muscle. It's good to hold stretches for about 30 seconds. I'm probably going just a bit short than that, so if you need to hold them for a bit longer, you can look on the program, make sure you do. And we're going to sit down. This next stretch is for our glutes. I like to start in a seated position so it doesn't look too hard to do from the get-go. But what we're going to do is have one leg straight to start off with. We're going to bring one leg over, and we're going to pretty much go onto that knee. This straight leg now is going to come around the side, and we're going to lean over this front knee. Now you can bring yourself down so that your chest touches your knee. If you're here and that's enough for you, then great. Otherwise, if you're feeling like this stretch is working for you, you're not getting pain through your knees or your hips, you can start to look at straightening through your leg at the back. And remembering trying to put your chest center over that front knee. I hope I've explained that well. This one, if you just get straight into it, it's kind of like, oh, how do I do that? So I like to try and break it up, but I don't know if I did very well. So this is a really good stretch through the glutes, and if you're feeling that real pain and tightness through the middle of your pelvis, then it probably means that your glutes are a bit tight, and maybe piriformis as well. So when they're tight, they can also pull on the pelvis, which can pull the back a little bit out. It's not ideal. Remember, if your knee's here, that's just fine as well. Otherwise, if you're up for it, straighten that leg out. So you should be almost sitting on that left leg for me, because I've got the left knee in front of me. If you want to make it a bit harder now, a little bit more involving the piriformis, you can look at moving your knee a bit more over and centering yourself to the middle of your shin. But in doing this, you'll also need to bring that hip off the ground. So I was sitting down before, now I'm a bit more off it. You just might feel it a bit more through your hammies as well. It just increases the stretch that little bit more. Essentially a similar stretch, we're just moving a bit more center rather than over that knee. And we're going to change legs now. So, other leg in front. Remember, we can start off with straight leg, bent leg, and then we're going to bring ourselves over to that knee. Other leg's going to go out back if it's bent, or if it's straight, up to you. These stretches are really good to hold for 30 seconds and try and really focus on the muscle as well. Big deep breaths, always good to do. Remember, if your knee's out here and you're just kind of leaning over that front leg, if that's getting you the stretch, then that's absolutely fine. But these sessions are more about where you're at and trying to keep bettering yourself rather than do something crazy with your joints. All right, and if you want to do that extra bit for that movement, you can as well. Otherwise, we're going to go into a hammy stretch. So we'll go to the other leg now. So that one that was straight, the opposite one we were stretching, we're going to straighten out that leg. This leg is going to be bent. If you can get your foot to your knee, otherwise wherever is comfortable is fine for me. It's this leg that we're going to focus on now. So just a bit of a hammy stretch. We're going to bring our toes towards our face, and we're just going to lean our body, try and center yourself to that foot, towards it. And obviously the lower you can go with your head, the better. I don't know if you can see, but I have absolutely no flexibility, so good luck if you can get your head down to your knee. I've definitely seen it done. But the hammies are a good one to stretch as well, because that hammy pulls on the bottom of your pelvis, and it has an opposite effect if you've got tight hip flexors. You should be feeling quite a pull through the back of your leg. If you're not and your toes are pointed, bring your toes towards your face. It might help. If you can reach your hand there, that's great. If you can reach both hands there, that's even better. But if you're just kind of off to the side, one hand back, that's not going to give you as good a stretch. So try and center your chest to that foot. That should be about 30 seconds, hey? So next leg. Straightening out the other one now. Foot to the knee if you can. Centering chest, toes towards the face, and lean forward. It's not often we take a lot of time out to stretch, so this is even good for me. But by trying to stretch every day, you're helping yourself that much more. Stretching is one of the most common things to be overlooked when it comes to injury prevention. If it also helps, you can tuck your chin into your chest. That'll just help to get a bit more length through your spine. If you're like me, you're probably getting shooting pains through the back of your legs. It's not nice having very tight nerves, which is what I have. And slowly coming back up. And we're going to bring our feet together. Obviously, if this is comfortable for you, if it's not, you might want to have your feet crossed. Otherwise, we're trying to stretch through our groin with this one. So feet are going to be together. We're just going to hold them with our hands, and if you can, get your elbows to your knees, and just slightly, not too rough, push down on the knees and get a bit more length through the groin. Just checking my program, making sure I'm doing the right stretches. So sometimes the groin can get a bit tight through the inner there, and that can pull on the hips as well as the knees. So it's good to try and stretch these if you can. They're another one that gets overlooked a lot of the time. And if you want to as well, you can bring your head down to your toes, as close as you can get them. And that will get you a bit more length through your lower back as well. And coming up, next stretch, we're just going to cross our legs now. So as comfortable as you feel, if that's with them out a bit more, if they're in, or if you can do that cool little yogi thing that people do with their legs all tied up together, that's cool as well. We're going to place one hand on the mat, one side at a time, and we're just going to lower our elbow down to the mat, trying to keep our hips on the ground. So you might not be able to get all the way, you might be just off if you're finding your hips are coming off. And with this one, we're also going to bring our hand over and just get a lot more length through that side body. So you might feel this through this portion of your upper back, you might also feel it through your lower back. Depends where you're tight, I guess. Just breathe into that side body. Expand your ribs, helps to get more length. And coming back up to center. Give it a bit of a shake through the shoulders. Going to the other side now. So, sliding down ever so slowly, bringing the other arm up. Ooh, you might feel this side feels a bit different. I know I've got a little bit more tightness through my left lower back there. But oh, it feels so good. Remember as well, we're trying to focus on keeping both our what do you call them, glutes on the floor. So if your glute is coming up, you might need to lift your elbow up a bit. So if you're not able to get all the way to the floor, that's fine. But the focus is the glutes staying on the floor. Remember to breathe, big deep breaths. Got 2 more stretches and then we'll finish off the session. And coming back to center. We're just going to lay down to finish off. Whoa. Coming to lying on our backs. Second last stretch, we're just going to pull our knees up to our chest, and this is a good one to kind of finish on. And when we're holding our knees there, just kind of sway side to side, rocking. It just helps to get a little bit more kind of pressure on the lower back, and you might find that you're giving yourself a bit of a massage while doing this. And then we're just going to lower one leg to the ground, and that one leg on the ground, our leg in the air, very gently. And if this is pain-free, I must stress, we're just going to bring our knee over across our body until it goes as far as it can go. So if you're able to get your knee to the ground, that's great. The idea though is we want to keep both shoulders on the ground. So if one's coming up and you're fully twisted over with one shoulder up, you need to bring it back and just let the knee go to where it's comfortable and where your range is. Bringing knee back up and change legs. So the other leg now, bringing it over, arm goes to the side as well, very gently over, and forgot to add, look the opposite way. So look away from where your knee is. And coming back to center. Well, that is today's session. I hope you've taken some information away of what's good to do for your lower back, some exercises and stretches. Remember, it's all about strengthening through the core, and then there's plenty of stretches you can do for the hips and the legs and the glutes. And if you have any injuries whatsoever and you're thinking this can help you, probably best to see your physio first, just because this is more aimed at injury prevention. It's not rehabilitation. So I would suggest to get advice from the professional that you're seeing first before you go and attempt these exercises and stretches with an injury. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. We're doing another body part. I think I saw it was the upper body and the thorax. So we're going to do some upper arms. If you've got weights, make sure you've got them with you, but I'll send some info out in an email. Otherwise, thanks guys.